When it comes to Black people collaborating together, there's always some sort of resistance. It may be a deeply rooted thing, it may be an environmental thing, but there's always issues when it comes to collaboration.
The majority of our customers have been of the older generation or the Windrush generation. They've tended to do their banking in old traditional ways of, coming to the office, depositing cash and checks.
I like to be able to educate people without the jargon because it can be very intimidating, especially when it's a bit of a new system, which is different to the old.
No matter how far you go up that level, again, teaching people financial literacy is great. Showing them how money works is great, but you're showing them how money works from just one angle all the time. No matter how far you go up in that system, no one can move horizontally and do what they want.
We're going to change it up today, right?
Indeed.
We're going to change it up and have a conversation. And after having Damien do some whole magic with us, I think we want to do a few icebreakers, right?
We do, because finance is a bit of a dry subject sometimes. Finance and fintech can be a bit technical, right? So we want to start by knowing our panelists just a little bit better before we dive into the whole topic around finance and fintech. The first set of questions we have, just to get to know our audience a little bit better. So we've already introduced ourselves, myself and Lorraine are hosting this session, and for the panelists, we have a few icebreakers. The first question goes to you, Emmanuel. What would be the title of your autobiography?
Made in East London.
Made in East London. Can we get a round of applause?
Yes. Whoop, whoop, whoop,
Like that. And the next question will go with you. If you had to delete all but 3 apps from your smartphone, which 3 apps would you keep and why?
Notes, calendar, and the internet.
Notes, calendar, and internet. Fantastic. Thank you, Elizabeth. We know you're a scheduling type person. You have to keep your notes, calendar, and the internet connection critical. And we heard earlier from PCU, Pentecostal Credit Union. Amazing bank, amazing institution. Happened to be a member a couple of years ago, so I do love the service offering. But I want to get to know you better as a person. So, can you share? Are you more of a morning person or an evening person?
Definitely evening.
Definitely evening.
Definitely
Okay.
evening.
So no early morning calls for you. Okay. Fantastic. And last but not least, Nate, if you could live anywhere in the world for a year, where would it be and why?
I'd probably say like somewhere like the Maldives or somewhere like that where you can just go and chill and just really have some nice sights. Relax.
Slow down.
Slow down the pace, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for indulging and sharing those icebreakers. We know the finance sector. London is the capital of finance, right? When it comes to international finance, when it comes to innovation, we have a lot of tech within the city of London. And we want to get into the questions with you all, talking a little bit about your individual journeys within finance and fintech, and share with the audience a little bit more about how they can also engage. And some of the new things that are happening in the finance and fintech world. So can we start? The first question, just if you could quickly introduce yourselves a little bit more and share a little bit more about your involvement in the finance and the fintech space, please.
Okay, so I'm probably the least involved in finance and fintech among the guests. I came from the crypto side of things, My name's Nat Cole. I've been a consultant in the crypto space for around 7 years now. Started off with Bitcoin, delved into advising various different cryptocurrency projects, working with different cryptocurrency projects, and in 2021, I kind of went Bitcoin only, So started focusing on evolving the Bitcoin ecosystem, as that is the real true important financial change if we're going to see anything change on our overall level, or shall we say that's the disruptive change that we're going to see in our lifetime. So yeah, that's what I believe, and that's me.
Okay, so my name's Shane and I'm the CEO of the Pentecostal Credit Union, which is a black financial institution, community bank serving the needs of the black community in the UK, offering a variety of financial products, loans, savings, etc. In terms of fintech, I would say that our journey into the fintech space is a relatively new one, in that the majority of our customers have been of the older generation or the Windrush generation. They've tended to do their banking in old traditional ways of, coming to the office, depositing cash and checks. But in order to scale our business and to encourage more younger people to use our services, we've had to now go down the fintech route, the fintech space. So in 2018, we started using digital services so that people could open accounts online. We launched a mobile app, and we also launched a debit card whereby people could go out, spending money and things like that. And the reasons we did that primarily was to encourage more younger people to use their services, because that young people don't want to come to the office and bank money. They want their services at their fingertips, and we recognise that if we were going to become sustainable, we needed younger people to come in. But also as a way of increasing our security and reducing financial crime, because people are able to reproduce documents. We can't tell the difference between genuine documents and fake ones. So we're now using digital technology to check people out, their identities and things like that. And also it's a safer way, reducing money laundering and things like that. So that's been our experience.
Yeah.
I'm Liz. I'm a fintech consultant, a compliance professional, and I'm also the founder of a collective called the Afro Fintech Community. That community is just a collective of students, entrepreneurs, professionals, driving financial inclusion across Africa, from wherever you're based. My day job is actually as a compliance professional for a digital bank. So everything to do with money laundering, everything to do with regulatory compliance is my bag, if you want to call it that. And besides that, in terms of consulting, I speak with loads of people, business owners, as well as just young people that want to know more about fintech, understand how it works. I like to be able to educate people without the jargon, because it can be very intimidating, especially when it's a bit of a new system, which is different to the old. So I'm definitely for producing educational content as well as delivering financial literacy through that content.
Amazing.
Hey everyone, I'm Emmanuel Suko. I'm a regulated financial advisor, have been for over 15 years. I started off working in Barclays and all the rest of the bank. Decided to leave the banks as I felt like they didn't really serve the community that I felt needed it the most. So I started on social media, and now I do a lot of stuff on television and on social media, teaching people about finance and so forth.
Amazing. Just so you also know who I am, so I spent about 10 years working at UBS, where I actually met Nzube, and I was working in the finance space. I also launched one of the first platforms for UBS at the time in the edtech space around how UBS can actually educate students and professionals around financial literacy. I now am an early founder and a board member of an agri-tech startup in Ghana, which is all about providing financing solutions to smallholder farmers in Ghana. So the few things I do in that space, and I now work in tech in Meta as well. And Nzube, you're also in the space. Tell us about yourself.
I am indeed. I introduced myself briefly yesterday, but I'm Nzube Ufodike for those that don't know me. Work primarily in the fundraising space, so raise of over 50 million for companies, mostly pre-seed to Series B in the tech space. I also have an advisory firm and a small angel network where we invest in companies, typically pre-seed and seed. Work with Smade Group, who are the founders of Afro Nation. So we support with elevating the culture through music, festivals, etc. And I also volunteer with the BCS, so the British Computer Society, which does lots of great work getting people from underrepresented backgrounds into careers in IT and get better outcomes. But we met at UBS a few years ago when we both used to work there. I had a small stint in banking, and this topic is one that Lorraine and I are particularly excited to co-host, because finance and fintech is what we're all about. So thank you for staying for this session.
I think we need to start there, right? I think, Elizabeth, you said something really powerful. You said you teach and you educate, young people around financial literacy without jargon. I'm sure there's people in this room that don't understand maybe what fintech is. Can you just give us, in your words, what is fintech?
Fintech, first of all, is financial technology. It is how we use technology to enhance financial services. Financial services being things like banking. How do we use technology to ease banking? For example, we would have branches that we can walk into, people that we can speak to regarding our banking, what we want to do with our money, whether we want to open an account, what types of accounts we can open. Whereas now, technology has enhanced that service where you don't have to take the time to go into a branch. You can literally open your phone, download an app, go through the process of signing up to a bank, opening an account, and the information is all there for you. It's all generated for you to see for yourself. There's just a convenience that has been applied because of technology. That, in its simplest form, is what financial technology is. It's just to make your use of financial services more easier, more convenient, and of course there's so much more benefits as well across security and ease of access.
If I can just piggyback off that, because you dropped that you founded one of the largest African fintech communities, over 40,000 members you mentioned?
We have access to
Yes.
over 40,000 people. I wouldn't say I've actually spoken personally to over
Of
40,000
course not.
people, but I've definitely interacted with them in a certain way.
Just-
Our actual community is
Yeah.
probably about 100 people at the moment.
And if members in this audience want to engage with that community, how can they do that?
Via social media. And of course, if you see me, come have a chat. There's actually a few people in the community here today, which is amazing to see. Yeah, so absolutely via social media. I use that path because it reaches everywhere.
If you don't mind, we'll come back to you, gentlemen. I mean, it's a women's show now, right? But I love the Afro-Tech community and what you stand for. Now, across Africa, there is an unbanking crisis. So I think when I last did research, still 70% of Africans are unbanked, right? Meaning they don't have a bank account. So there's a lot of work going on right now with challenger banks and mobile-first apps, etc., to make sure that we bridge that gap between ensuring that Africans actually have access to financial technology and financial services, right? So just tell me a little bit more about the community in terms of how we as a collective can actually help to support that in terms of closing the gap a little bit more.
One of the issues I have come to find is that when it comes to Black people collaborating together, there's always some sort of resistance. It may be a deeply rooted thing, it may be a environmental thing, but there's always issues when it comes to collaboration. And as I've been putting financial technology related content out there, what I found was that there was a community of people being built without my sort of express knowledge. So I just put it out there one day to say, hey, I'm creating the safe space for anyone that's interested in fintech, whether you know much about it, whether you don't, and you have an interest to enhance financial access and inclusion across Africa. Let's join together, let's collaborate, let's see how we can work together. And through doing that, I found that there are so much Africans or so many people that have an interest in that space that want to be able to do something, but they might not have the resources, they might not have access to the resources, they might not have all the knowledge, nobody does, and that's the whole point of collaboration. I'm a compliance professional qualified, but I don't know everything about data and engineering, and I need that to be able to build particular infrastructures. So in terms of how we come together to do that, I look at what you're doing as though it's mine. You should look at what I'm doing as though it's yours. If we are able to push that mindset, there are so much opportunities that we can go for. I always say this, but it's always the people first. And that's why I always try to emphasize pushing things out there on social media, because although I may not have spoken to over 40,000 people personally, having that reach and access, I can tap into that collective of people to be able to go to an institution to say, hey, I've actually got this amount of people backing me. And if there's a substantial amount of people, the institutions that can maybe invest into or contribute to a certain initiative is a lot more likely. If I can show proof of life in what I'm doing and say that this is the amount of people that it's affecting, there's a much higher chance that we actually would be able to impact certain infrastructures.
So earlier we introduced you and the work you do in Web3. So when we talk about fintech, many would look at innovations in AI, blockchain, crypto as part of that sort of Web3 space. And you seem to sit well within that space. Can you share a little bit more about what happens within the more bleeding edge fintech space in the domains you occupy around blockchain?
First of all, and I said this yesterday in my talk that I did here yesterday. So there's a clear distinction first between Bitcoin and Web3. Bitcoin, let's say, is the ushering in of a Web3 space, a Web3 economy. And then with regards to fintech, crypto and Bitcoin has in some ways rightly fallen under the kind of fintech banner. But as I was explaining yesterday, we're looking at a completely different revolution, a completely different monetary system. All of the rules change. And with all due respect to all of the guests, they're all doing great work with financial literacy. I just got to that point in my life when I learned about Bitcoin that it was like we're playing a game that's rigged. No matter how far you go up that level, again, teaching people financial literacy is great. Showing them how money works is great, but you're showing them how money works from just one angle all the time. And no matter how far you go up in that system, no one can move horizontally and do what they want. They just got to go up till they get to that blocker. And I think we all understand that point where we get blocked. And this don't matter. When it comes to money, it don't matter whether you're black, white, Indian, whatever. When you get to that point, you don't control the money, bro. That's it. So Bitcoin changed the whole entire rules of everything, right? Where you do own the money, you do own your share in the network, you do own what happens next with the monetary, or part of what happens next with the monetary system, and you're free to do what you want. Doesn't matter how many apps you build and how great they are, if the bank can come in and go, oh, you know what, you can't use your account today. Doesn't matter how much money you got. I said this yesterday, you know, and that was, funnily enough, the problem with cash, why they brought in cashless. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you, right? So a lot of people run away from cashless, but cashless was inevitable since Fintech, yeah? Since finance and computers went together. It was inevitable. I think that there is definitely room in the future, and there is a need, and there has been a need from the first challenger banks to challenge the original traditional system, yeah? But when these same entities then have to be regulated by these same entities who are regulating the original banks, who actually own, the shares in the original bank, you know, it becomes just a rigged game again. So we play until, you know, somebody says that you can't play anymore. And that's it, right? So yeah, that is my thing. I think there has to be a complete differentiation between Bitcoin, Web3, Fintech.
At this stage, I feel like I need to invite you into this conversation, Brian, because I saw the look on your face around the...
Just to cut you off, but just to go back on a little bit of where I got that thought and what my experience was at the time, is I was working in VoIP telecoms. I've got a long history with computers, got a long history in music space, right?
Yeah.
So I was working in VoIP telecoms with computers, right? I was wanting to go either into accounting or law, or stay where I was, but move up to doing cybersecurity, right? And when I looked at Fintech, the reason why I never got involved with anything Fintech, because it was just the same thing. So yeah, sorry, go on.
So no, just to bring you into the conversation, and you mentioned earlier, obviously you lead the PCU, and you talked about some of the technologies you use for the Know Your Client, the KYC, and all the other innovation you have to make that customer experience a lot smoother. When it comes to the more kind of bleeding edge of tech, what are your views as a traditional institution, a traditional credit union, in relation to some of the things we see around perhaps the blockchain space or perhaps around the crypto space? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I have to plead a little bit of ignorance in this particular sector, because I don't know very much about the alternative currencies, if you like. Because they're unregulated, we're not allowed to really delve into that space. All I could really say, as far as that's concerned, is that we have had some members, some of our customers, be a little bit resistant to the fintech, the advancement of financial technology. Many of the older generation, if you like, who have always banked in a particular way. They like their checkbook, they like the cash, they like the actual book. You know, they want to come in, put the money, stamp the book, you know, to make sure that the money is there, and see a person and talk to them, you know, and they've resisted. So what we've tried to do really, as far as the Black Bank is concerned, is actually to give some appeasement to those people, as if to say, well, actually, if you get a PIN number and you then get electronic digital access to your money, you can actually see it, you can see the money growing, you can move it about, and we can help them to migrate them into this space by maybe doing a bit of telephone banking, giving them a code by which they can talk to someone at the end of a line and then help them with what they're doing.
I love that. And I guess older generation on that journey, right? From that hard token that they're used to, right? To this telephone banking, to what the next stage is. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe, you know, from a traditional banking perspective, how you think there is space in the world that you operate in terms of how we could move the needle a little bit more towards getting it more, I guess, digitalized, bringing the digitalization element into there?
More into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from a purely administrative perspective as a manager, you know, digital technology has been essential because it's helped us with our MI, it's helped us to drive the business so we can see where there are elements of growth, what's working, what's not working. We can channel resources more into the areas of the business that are growing, and then transfer the resources where perhaps the business is not so successful. In terms of the actual customers, many customers like the advent of digital technology because they're more in control. The business is more transparent. They can go online, they can see where their money is and what they want to do with it. And I think it's been helpful in that respect.